What's up? What is happening, podcast listeners? After nearly a month away from the microphone, Storm and I are back to bring you the newest episode of the Practice Squad podcast. And I wish I could say I missed you, buddy, but really I just miss drinking beer and talking sports.
What's that song I'm thinking of? We are back, we are back, we are back.
I literally could not tell you what song that was.
I don't know either. I'm going to find it, though.
Is that an actual song, or is that just like something
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. That's what it is. Well, thank you. Welcome back, Cotter. Thank you, James. Welcome back, James.
Welcome back, James. Welcome back to us. Welcome back to you guys. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the show. I was just joking a bit ago. I am excited to be back here with you. And we missed a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, we picked a bad time.
Yeah, we
thought it would be a slow time.
Yeah, typically, that's a slow time. But, yeah, a lot has been going on. And really, it hasn't necessarily been a lot that has happened, but a lot of news that's been swirling around. Rumors that have been swirling around.
Want to turn that phone off?
I'll turn my phone off.
Come on, man.
I know.
You can tell we've been off for a couple weeks. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's not.
I know you got some big news on your plate tonight, possibly.
That's okay. This is what's important right now. Bringing the people what they want. They've been deprived for so long. Let's not let that last any longer, though. Let's just dive in. And one of the things that we have missed talking about for the past few weeks, and that honestly we have been talking about since we started the Practice Squad podcast back in July, is Dak Prescott's contract. And I know it's one of your favorite topics.
I know.
But you know what? You can't not talk about it because what is even going on, man? The Cowboys keep saying that Dak is their guy. Dak is their guy. They want to make something happen. They've had nearly a year to make something happen. And now we're about a week and a half away from Dak officially being able to be a free agent. I want to know what you think the Cowboys are thinking right now. Are they planning on signing him long-term? Are they going to franchise him? Or are they going to let him test the free agent market?
Well, I think, and a lot of teams are probably waiting for this, is trying to see what's going on with the new CBA, like, whether they franchise tag him or re-sign him. There's no way Dak Prescott's testing the market. I don't see them letting him step foot in there. If they don't come to a deal, he's definitely getting tagged. You heard Mike McCarthy, like you said, he came out, Dak's a franchise quarterback, this and that. I just think they can't agree to the money because I don't think Dallas is willing to give him not only the money he wants, but the guaranteed money he wants, because I don't know if they're still sold yet, which is wild. I don't understand. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I said, he's not going to touch free agency. He will be a Cowboy next year. But I think he wants past, like you look at it, if he wants past Carson Wentz, he wants past Jared Goff money, but he really hasn't proven that. And he can't pay him, like, say Patrick Mahomes goes and gets $40 million this year and Dak wants $38. Are you going to tell me Dak Prescott's really worth only $2 million
less than Patrick Mahomes?
Who just went on an absolute tear and won the Super Bowl when the Cowboys haven't even sniffed a conference championship game? I mean, yeah, maybe against the Rams, but the Rams really put it to him 2 years ago. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm with you, man. I think Jerry and Stephen Jones keep saying how over and over, Dak is our quarterback. We want him to be our quarterback for the future. And I believe them. I do think that they're impressed with the type of quarterback that Dak is, and they want him to be their quarterback. However, that does not mean that they think Dak is elite and that they want or think it's appropriate to pay him more than any quarterback in the league, basically. Like, they're confident that this guy can win games and is a great leader on the roster. But honestly, when you look at it, he's a borderline top 10 guy. And they are hyper aware that if you pay a guy who isn't a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the league top tier money, that does not bode well for winning long term. It does not. You look across the league where you see it kind of turning out unsuccessful. You've got Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. You saw what Jared Goff did as soon as they lost a couple pieces on the offensive line and the running game started to decline. The teams that are winning are Baltimore with a quarterback on a rookie deal. The Patriots for so long, who had Tom Brady taking discounts. Kansas City, you either have to have that guy or you need to be paying someone on a rookie deal or mid-tier money and build around them. And they are just not convinced he is that guy. Now, I do think Jerry is sitting there and he's dying to pay him. He does not want to have to worry about finding another quarterback, drafting another quarterback, and hoping that they can meet or exceed what Dak has been doing, because Dak is beloved by most, if not all, of the Dallas fan base. However, even though he loves Dak Prescott, he loves the Dallas Cowboys even more, and he knows real deep down that Dak just is not worth the money. Plain and simple. And as a businessman, he knows that it just does not make sense to pay him upwards of $36 million a year.
Right, and you got lucky. You just paid Zeke last year. You paid DeMarcus Lawrence last year. You paid Jalen Smith. You're letting Byron Jones test free agent market.
Yes.
He's gone for sure. Amari Cooper, we don't even know. Like, have there even been discussions? I saw a report. I think Adam Schefter said he's probably going to get north of $20 million a year. There's no way the Cowboys are going to be able to do that on top of Dak. And you know what? Dak looked really good having a star wide receiver like Amari Cooper out there.
Sometimes,
for sure,
unless they were playing a playoff team, in which case both of them just kind of disappeared. At least in the first three quarters, Dak was stat bad in the fourth.
Which is stunning that Amari Cooper is going to get north of 20.
No, it's ridiculous. These Dallas Cowboys players, and granted, it's something that works across the league. It's the next up, I want to make the most. But, and like you said, the CBA may change, and then obviously you have more flexibility. But under the current cap restrictions, it just does not make sense to operate that way. You need to be one of, if not the best, to make the most money if you want your team to have the greatest chance at succeeding.
Yeah, and I mean, they're winning. That's the thing. So it's going to be tough. But when you start, well, this year they didn't win. But, I mean, when you start, again, like you said, when you pay your quarterback that type of money, you're going to start saying goodbye, and that makes you rely on drafting players
they screwed
better.
Up. I think they overpaid Zeke. I think they overpaid DeMarcus Lawrence.
Right. And they have a lot of money tied up in that O-line.
You want to hold on to those guys. You don't want to lose key components of your roster. Yeah. But you also have to think long term. Like, why didn't they just suck it up and pay Dak early in the year? It's because they had already given Zeke all this money in D-Law, so they wanted to try and wait to see if they could move some money around. So because they overpaid those guys, they weren't able to pay Dak, and they probably would have got him for less than $30 million. So,
yeah, probably. I mean, if they signed him early, yeah. Like when they should have really paid him right when Carson and Goff got paid.
Absolutely. And Carson's contract is still, in my mind, kind of iffy. Jared Goff's contract, like I said, is looking real bad. Why does Dallas want to give themselves that same fate?
Right.
So I get why they're so hesitant. To answer the question, though, I think he's going to get franchise tagged. I think they want us to give him 1 year under Mark McCarthy, and then the CBA, by the time they have to really consider paying him, it's almost guaranteed that there's going to be an increased cap, and then you've got some more money to work with.
Yeah, makes sense. Like I said, he's not touching free agency. So
I agree
whether it's a deal or franchise tag, he's a Cowboy.
I totally agree. And as much as I've been annoyed continuing to talk about this, I do enjoy talking about the shambles and chaos that the Dallas Cowboys find
It's always a pleasure talking about that part of it.
Anyway, talking about subjects that we've hit a multitude of times on the show, we're about to hit another one. It's another quarterback.
Is this episode 1 or are we?
This is a recap show, our greatest hits. We're going to talk about Tom Brady for a second because he has also been in the news. And I think it was either this morning or last night that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick actually had, I don't think it was a face-to-face, but they had a phone call. And by all reports, it did not go too well.
Could you imagine Bill Belichick trying to FaceTime a player?
I just picturing he's holding the phone like at a real bad angle. You see his second chin, holding it too close to his face so you only get like the middle 60%. Bad lighting. Anyway, by all accounts, it did not go well. So now people are really starting to buy into the fact that Tom Brady could leave the Patriots. It seems like it's been swaying back and forth, back and forth. What's your opinion on it? Are we any closer to knowing or having a feel for where Tom Brady is going to be at the start of the 2020 season?
No, absolutely not. I have no clue. You hear it, like reports are linking him to every team that needs a QB outside of the LA Rams. You like that? Yeah, I had to get my little Rams jab in there at you. Welcome back. But yeah, I just don't understand. Like, what yesterday it was, right before the phone call report was, Tom and San Fran have mutual interest, and then you saw Tennessee as a potential favorite for him, and then he's linked to Chicago and San Diego or the Chargers, LA Chargers, and I have no idea where this is going. They had the interview or Edelman on at the basketball game, the Syracuse game. It was like, this guy's crazy, whatever. Like, who knows? I have no idea. But at first, I was like, there's no way Tom leaves the Patriots. I'm starting to swing towards the way that he actually might leave. We might actually see Tom Brady leave the Patriots this offseason.
It's really wild because obviously he's been a Patriot for 20 years now.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about the situation is Tom Brady is kind of the first domino that once he falls, that's when you can really see like everything fall into place because his decision is going to dictate where a lot of these other franchise or free agent quarterbacks go.
A 42-year-old quarterback would dictate the whole freaking market,
but if he goes, let's say, for instance, he goes to Tennessee, then Tannehill isn't getting re-signed, so where does he go? Does Chicago pick him up? Does he go to New England? It's just so dependent on his decision. And like you said, wild that a 42-year-old has so much power in terms of the quarterback landscape in the NFL.
Part of me kind of wondered, and sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
If with Drew Brees coming back, if that dictated it at all, because I feel like Tom Brady would be pretty successful under Sean Payton in New Orleans with a Michael Thomas, with an Alvin Kamara, with a pretty good defense. Like, that team was much more well-built than the Patriots right now, and they're in a dome. I mean, for a 42-year-old quarterback, that would have been a pretty nice scenario for him.
Oh, absolutely. And I do still think there are other options. But
for sure.
I'm with you. I really don't know. And part of me wants to say, you know what? Tom has earned the right to be treated better than Belichick has treated him.
Agreed.
He shouldn't just be one of the other 53 on the team. Like, I think people know by now he's Tom freaking Brady. Like, put some respect on the man's name. I get that Belichick has a way of coaching, but come on, you got to give a little bit for this guy. Additionally, then, like, overall, he's not happy because of Belichick. He has taken all these pay cuts all the years, so he does want to just make a little bit of money for ego's sake. And then you look at New England. No weapons, no money, no respect. And I feel like that sounds like a line out of Scarface. No weapons, no money, no respect. But it's the truth. And the reality is Bill probably doesn't really care one way or another because he's not super thrilled about giving a 43-year-old quarterback a new contract. So he's not trying to put on any face and say, I'm going to change for you now. Hell no. For me, a lot of it depends on what New England does or is willing to show they're going to do in free agency. Because I think in Tom's heart of hearts, he wants to stay in New England. He's built a career there. He's got a home there. His kids are in school there. He's got businesses established there. So do they go out and do they make a move to try and get Odell there? Do they go get Austin Hooper, who's a free agent this summer, to give him a legitimate tight end option again? Do they sign a veteran on the O-line? Do they try and make a move for a guy like Trent Williams and
Jason Peters?
Jason Peters, exactly. A couple guys who are going to be expensive but have another year or two of elite performance before they totally fall off. Are the Patriots willing to mortgage a little bit of their future to give Tom Brady another 2-year window to get them another Super Bowl? If they don't show that they're willing to do that, if they don't make a splash in free agency, I would not be surprised at all to see him go anywhere else because that's showing we're not going to do jack shit for you.
Right.
You're going to stay here because it's convenient. And I do think there is a breaking point for a guy who has as many accolades as Tom Brady. Now, once again, I don't know the guy. I don't know his family or exactly what is important to him. So maybe there's enough that even after all this peacocking, he says, you know what? I tried. I tested my luck. I'm still going to stay with the Patriots. We can still win here. But yeah, it's just I don't have a feel for it because I thought once they talked, we'd see things a little clearer. But the fact that everyone's saying it just didn't go well at all, like Bill Belichick just sitting there with the stogie in his mouth. Just
who the hell's putting it out that they're not going well? Like the phone conversations. That's why I want to know. Is Tom's agent just sitting there? Is it Giselle? Like, oh, hey, Adam Schefter. No, Tommy's.
I don't know. Is it what the hell's his trainer's name? Or Alex Guerrero?
Yeah.
Who knows? Now, obviously, the 4 big teams that are being floated around, you mentioned a bunch of them, but it's the Titans, the Chargers, the 49ers, and the Cowboys. Which destination do you think would be the most likely if he does not go back to New England?
I don't know. I think he winds up in San Fran.
Do you think they swap again and Jimmy G goes back to New England?
I somehow find out.
That would be Belichick's, dream come true because he got another Super Bowl out of Brady, and then he still gets the guy that he wanted. Now, that would be San Francisco just saying, we're trying to win it. Now we're going to utilize this talent, and then we're going to kind of start from scratch.
Right.
Because they would have to draft a quarterback probably this year.
Sure, yeah. And, listen, I don't know. Like, there was reports today Shanahan's not sold on Jimmy G. But
he's clearly not sold. We all watched the playoffs. We all watched the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, he ran the hell out of the ball. But there's just so much smoke right now, this 2 weeks before free agency, that who the hell knows what to believe. But, yeah, I would not be shocked if Tom Brady winds up
I think that would be dumb. Like, I get it. Jimmy G did not have a very good postseason.
Right.
Shanahan did.
I don't think it's smart.
But look at the San Francisco 49ers since Jimmy G has gotten there. They haven't won without him. He goes 5-0 in those first 5 games. The season he gets injured, they won, 2 games? And then he comes back with almost the same team. You add Joey Bosa, and you win 13. Like, it can't be that bad. And he's still young, and he's still affordable.
I agree.
No, I think the Titans are the best
Titans
shot.
are a good one.
They've got solid talent, good run game, great O-line, some solid young wide receivers, and a veteran tight end, and Delaney Walker, if he can stay healthy. Plus, him and Mike Vrabel are boys. So,
interesting.
Like, part of me wants to see Tom Brady stay in New England because it's been so long. You just want to see him go out like that. But another part of me is like, let's just mix this shit up. I want to see Tom Brady try without Bill for a couple years. Anyway, a quarterback that does not have nearly the NFL experience as Tom Brady, and by that I mean 0 NFL experience.
Apparently had the same picture for the combine as Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah, looking the same.
Some frumpy.
Yeah, shoulders drooping a little bit. Got that dad bod rocking a bit. But anyway, Joe Burrow is the presumptive number 1 pick by the Cincinnati Bengals, and he has recently come out and said he will play for whoever drafts him. He says, I'm a baller. I'm going to go out there and play. Now, my question to you is not about whether or not he should have done that. I want to know whether or not Cincinnati should genuinely consider trading down and moving off of the number 1 pick in Joe Burrow.
Yeah, like I said earlier, or not today, but in a previous episode.
Yeah, 3 weeks earlier.
Every pick has a price, man. You would be foolish not to at least listen. There's someone that's going to be willing to overpay if they want, and it depends on how much you sold on Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow said he wants A.J. Green to stay, so now the Bengals are going to tag A.J. Green, which I think is an absolute disservice to A.J. Green for everything he's done for them. The man's 31. He's at the tail end of his career. Let him try to go to a team that's built to win now.
You just want him to go to Philly.
No, well, I mean, I wouldn't complain. But, like, regardless, like, that's, like, BS. And we talked about it a little bit with the franchise tag in itself. But, I don't know. If you're not sold on Joe Burrow, you trade it, you get a ransom, you trade Andy Dalton to maybe, say, the Patriots if Tom Brady leaves. I don't know. And then you lose for Lawrence. You tank. And if you don't get that first pick, you have a ton of picks from trading this one away where you could use to get up. And it never works out that way, obviously. It's more like a fantasy general manager style. But everything has a price.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should consider it, strongly consider it. But they won't. They're gonna draft him number 1, and I do get why they feel compelled to draft him. Like, he's a local kid. He's from Ohio. Yeah. The last time we saw someone from Ohio get drafted by a team in Ohio, LeBron James went to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I get why they feel like they have to do it. And he did have arguably the greatest college football season by any player of all time. But let's remember a couple things. Number 1, he had elite talent on that LSU team. There were 20-plus NFL caliber players on that roster on both the offensive, defensive side, particularly those wide receivers and that running back. They were absolutely elite. Also remember, he did get beat out for a job by Dwayne Haskins, who we are now ripping apart in the NFL. And he got beat out, no questions asked. Like, when you listen to Urban Meyer talk, it really was not even close. Right. Dwayne Haskins was the guy. And now people are already saying Dwayne Haskins is a bust.
We're going to talk about that next.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm not saying that he didn't bust his ass to get better once he got to LSU. But his first season with the Tigers, he was 3rd, 4th, maybe even a 5th round draft prospect? Are we saying he got that much better as a football player in 1 year? Is that what we are saying? Like, is a 1-year run enough to convince you that he can lead a franchise for 10 to 15 years when his tangibles, I'm not talking about the intangibles, the leadership, all that stuff, his tangibles are maybe slightly above average? Like, we've seen guys like this who have had incredible runs in college. See Tim Tebow, see Vince Young, see Cam Newton, who was arguably the most successful of them all, but that window was so short. Now, I get Joe Burrow has a different playing style, but you also have to acknowledge that his OC, Joe Brady, basically reinvented the forward pass in an SEC that had never known what a 35-yard bomb was, like, ever. So I just think that the Bengals are a team that need a lot of pieces. And if the Dolphins or the Chargers or even Carolina want to get into a bidding war for Burrow, let them. Let them give you their first, next year's first, and like 2 seconds. And you beef up your offensive line, you beef up your defense, and you still get Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert this year. And if Carolina wants to or if Carolina trades up with you, you could even take a flyer and go for the prospect that people are saying might have the highest ceiling in Jordan Love. Because, yeah, you're reaching a bit for him, but you also got 3 additional picks for it. So I just think in terms of where they're at as a franchise and what's the word I'm looking for? You don't know, the unsure. I'm losing my words right now.
I mean, but they do have some talent on the offensive side of football. They have Joe Mixon, they have Tyler Boyd, they have an injured Jay Ross.
Are we saying that we're so confident that Joe Burrow is a better NFL prospect than Justin Herbert? How comfortable do we feel saying that? And if you swap the two, especially because you're playing in Cincinnati, Justin Herbert's a bigger guy. He's got the bigger hands, got the bigger arms. He is the more athletic guy.
Hands. It's all about the hand size.
He didn't put up the numbers at Oregon this past year,
and
but you also have to look
trash in big games. He looked like trash for the most part in big games.
Yeah, he did not look great in big games, but that offense they were running also was pretty pitiful. He had little to no high-end talent around him. And when you saw him in the Rose Bowl, as well as in the Senior Bowl when he had ballers around him, he looked damn good. And people from the Combine are saying he looked the most impressive. So I'm just saying, are you that sold that Joe Burrow is going to be the guy that can carry you for that long? If you're not, you've got to consider moving down.
That's why they pay them scouts the big ones, boy.
Yeah, but
no matter
this is
how
going to be
you
a
look
heart
at it.
over head pick.
Yeah,
because his season was so good, they feel obligated to take him, and that's when you make mistakes.
And you never know, man. Quarterbacks are always going to be a gamble, no matter what. How many sure things have we seen in the top of the draft?
Oh, not many, but almost all of the guys that we're seeing succeed right out of college either A, have an elite running game on their team, see Dak Prescott and Jared Goff right when they came out, or they have above average size and or athleticism. See Carson Wentz, see Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen succeeding because of that, Kyler Murray. These are the guys who are able to succeed right away. You're not bringing Joe Burrow in to sit for a while. You're bringing him in to start behind one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Right.
So,
I agree.
Yeah, but they're not going to trade down.
No,
they have to take him. They may as well send the envelope to where they may as well mail it to Vegas right now.
That's right, they are.
I swear to God, if they take 8 minutes to make this pick, I'm going to lose it.
Of course they will. That's how it always works.
Let's move down to the number 2 pick in the draft, where the Washington football team sits.
2:29 to go. This could be a long show, guys.
So a lot of people are kind of questioning what Washington should do with this pick, because Chase Young, who people are saying a lot of people are saying is the best overall football player in the draft, will be sitting there. However, Washington does also have some needs. Some people are saying that Ron Rivera should just move off of Dwayne Haskins and take a guy like Tua. I want to know if you think they should A, draft Chase Young, B, draft Tua Tagovailoa, or C, trade down.
Did you see the report that people thought Dwayne Haskins was dyslexic because he's had so many issues reading the playbook? I don't know if it's true. Again, this is all smoke.
Well, there's been a lot of really strong reports have said he did have difficulties remembering and calling plays.
Right, and it could be, hey, Miami, you want Tua? You want that number 2 pick? Come here and get him, or whatever. But me, if you're Ron Rivera, you want your guy. If Dwayne Haskins isn't your guy, then yeah, and Tua is, you're going to take Tua. However, man, Chase Young's nasty. Like, I'm so quarterback obviously outweighs a D end. So if they really think Dwayne Haskins isn't the guy, Arizona just did it. They didn't care. Their new coach came in. They drafted Kyler Murray number 1 overall. They traded Josh Rosen to Miami. And the rest is, it's done. It's not like Dwayne Haskins was a top 10 pick. He was, 15, 16? You're not sold on him. Move on.
Yeah, I don't think they should move on from Dwayne Haskins. I understand that he struggled early on in Jay Gruden's system, but once they made the coaching shift, he did not look too bad down the stretch. Now, he didn't look great.
Right.
He's got a lot to learn, and Urban Meyer was very open about the fact that he was not ready to lead an NFL team. But I do think that he's the type of guy, particularly seeing as Tua has some injury history, he is a little undersized, and although a lot of people think it, he's not incredibly athletic in terms of his mobility out of the pocket. Athletic enough, but not some athletic freak. So I think you got to give Dwayne Haskins another year or two because I do think he has the potential. You got to draft Chase Young here. And I was really tempted to say trade down because, like you said,
that was the last out of the three for me.
See, for me, that was second because they also need a lot of things, particularly on the offensive line, and you could beef up that wide receiver core a little bit. But let's look at this Washington team. For as bad as a team as they were last year, their defense actually wasn't bad. And that would, for a lot of people, make them say, oh, well, since their defense is fine, you draft Tua, Dwayne Haskins sucks, et cetera, et cetera. But Chase Young is that kind of player that can take a good defense and make them absolutely elite. Look at the impact that Joey Bosa had on that San Francisco 49ers team this year. I know some people say, well, San Francisco had a lot more talent. And they did. They were more talented. But Washington was second against the run already this year. They were fifth in sacks. And they were mid-pack in terms of pass defense, 15th. But we all know what kind of effect a dominant pass rush can have on alleviating pressure on defensive backs.
They got some of those big Bama boys on that D-line,
Absolutely.
too. You match them up with Chase Young.
This Washington defense has a sneaky opportunity to be a top 5 overall defense this year and for a few years moving forward because they don't have any super high price tag guys or super old guys
no, the only
on
one
this
is
team.
they
just moved off of Josh Norman, who wasn't doing anything
Landon
anyway.
Collins.
And Landon Collins is a little older. But you look, having an elite defense can not only alleviate pressure from your offense and from average quarterbacks because you get better field position, smaller deficits late in games, and the defense can bail you out with turnovers and by putting points on the board. But also, having an elite defense for a season or two is a culture-changing thing for a franchise. You look at what happened to Baltimore in the 2000s. It was a decade plus that they became known for their defense. Look at what Seattle was able to do with the young Russell Wilson, the Legion of Boom. And then you see San Francisco this year being able to take a lot of pressure off of Jimmy G, not make him feel like he has to win games with his arms.
You look at Jacksonville 3 years ago. Absolutely. He took Blake Bortles to the AFC Championship game.
Chase Young is just too good of a talent to pass up on for a team with an inexperienced but young and talented offense and a defensive-minded head coach. Ron Rivera leading these guys, they could be, like I said, an elite defense for the next 5 years with a guy like Chase Young.
I feel like, more to your point, I feel like Dwayne Haskins, he's not Cam Newton.
No, he's absolutely not. Totally different quarterback.
But he's got the same kind of built as Cam Newton. He'll run the ball if he has to, but he's more of
he's a big arm. He's a big arm, but he's definitely more of a pocket passer, more traditional quarterback. Which I know that's not the trend in the NFL, but it does still work for a lot of teams.
They need a lot of weapons. They don't have a running back. They don't have a tight end. They only have Terry McLaurin. I mean, they have a couple other wide receivers that are mid-tier.
Yeah, they've got a Jeremy Sprinkle, a tight end, who looks like a good young talent.
Cut Reed. We don't know the Trent Williams situation. I think they're tagging Scherf, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they are. Who knows? They didn't want to let Trent Williams walk last year. Maybe they will this year.
Yeah, he's a big question mark. So.
Yeah, so like I said, they could be sneakily good on that side of the ball if they take Chase Young.
They absolutely could, yep.
All right, anyway, usually right here before we end our first half, we like to play a game called NFL Rapid Fire. But we figured since we had 3 weeks to kind of prep and plan, we'd switch it up. And we are still going to do a little NFL game. However, this one, real creative name right here, NFL Quarterback Fact or Fiction. In this game, Storm, I am going to give you a statement about an NFL quarterback, and you will tell me fact or fiction. Do you understand that? Do I need to go over that again?
That one more time?
You know what? No, we're just going to wing it.
Yeah.
We're just going to wing it. We'll see how you do.
Make up the questions.
Anyway, guys, we've got 8 quarterback questions coming at you, and we're going to start with question number 1 with the player that we started with topic number 1, Dak Prescott. And I want to know, or fact or fiction, Storm, Dak Prescott would get $38+ million a year if he hit free agency.
Fiction. Is that all? Do I have to state my case? I put him in the $30 to $35 million range. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, like I said. And I also mentioned earlier, if Mahomes getting $40 million, there's no way in hell Dak should be getting only $2 million less than freaking Pat Mahomes. So, but quarterbacks, you never know.
Yeah,
but I'm saying fiction.
I say fiction as well. And the market suggests otherwise when you look at the history of the market of quarterbacks. When you're free, people will literally pay anything for you. But especially this offseason, I'm looking around and I just don't see the team that would say Dak Prescott is the answer for us. And I think most teams actually feel the same way that the Dallas Cowboys do. He's good, but can he elevate and carry a team with his talent? Probably not. All right. Question number 2. Phillip Rivers to the Colts makes them Super Bowl contenders.
Fiction. Phillip Rivers looked horrendous last year, and I feel like their offense had a little bit more talent than the Colts. Maybe not on the offensive line, but I think like Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, the tight end Hunter Henry when he's healthy. What's the other? Mike Williams. I feel like there's a little more talent there, and Phillip Rivers just looked bad. He looked like he took 3 steps backwards.
Yeah, I'm with you as well, fiction. And what I will say is that Indianapolis'
We're agreeing too much. Let's make this interesting.
Indianapolis' offensive line is better than LA, and Phillip Rivers was under duress for a lot of the year, especially with Russell Okung out. It made it really,
now
really
they
difficult
traded to Carolina.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fiction because Phillip can still make some great throws, but it's a lot less than he used to, and he makes just as many mistakes as ever. And again, if the Colts are solid, but they aren't special. Their weapons on offense are fine. T.Y. Hilton is good when he's healthy. Marlon Mack, Naheem Hines are solid, but not game changers. Zach Pascal, Jack Doyle, they're all right. And Rivers is not that guy anymore that can elevate those types of players to a level where they can honestly compete with the talent of teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. So,
what quarterback is going to go to Indy and make them a Super Bowl team?
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles,
Don't you
baby.
dare
Come back
say
with
Nick
Frank
Foles.
Reich. No, I'm just wanted to throw that in there.
Funny guy. All right.
Like I said, we were agreeing too much. I had to make it interesting.
Fact or fiction, Storm. Jameis Winston will have a 2-to-1 or better touchdown to interception ratio next year.
The new and improved laser eye repair.
He got the LASIK.
He's got the LASIK. The man's ready
He can now see the safeties. There aren't 4 safeties in the defensive backfield. There are only 2. He's playing by the same rules as everyone else now.
It almost makes sense when you see him squinting all of the time.
Yeah.
But fiction. The man he's never thrown a 2-to-1 ratio in his career. He just throws I can't. No. Fiction.
I'm sorry. I want to disagree with you so much because I want to say fact. Like some
we don't even know who he's going to play for next year.
That's one of the reasons. But I want to say fact because with those wide receivers and tight ends in Tampa and his arm talent and Bruce Arians, that offense could be so much fun to watch and so elite. But it is fiction because, number one, like you said, I don't even know if he'll be around in Tampa anymore. Bruce Arians is being extremely ambiguous about what he's going to do, being brutally honest about, like, he's got work to do. I like him, but he's got work to do. And number two, I'm not really sure LASIK was the issue, man. He misses a few more reads and takes a few more unnecessary risks than the guys who are really good, and that adds up to a lot more turnovers. He is just not a good decision maker on the football field. And after 4 years of being able to try and get it right, it's like Ben Simmons' jump shot.
It's 5.
Yeah. It's like Ben Simmons' jump shot. Eventually, you're showing me enough time, you're not going to get better at this.
5 years. It took you 5 years to realize you needed LASIK surgery? Come on, bro. Just looking for I think he's looking for a couple extra million in that payday when he hits free agency.
Maybe, and that's another guy who I don't know who the hell would pick him up.
Maybe he gets $38 million.
Jeez. All right, fact or fiction? Big Ben Roethlisberger will play all 16 games and lead the Steelers to the playoffs.
Now, he's only completed 16 games 4 times in his career. Granted, sat a couple times, playoff, whatever. He did complete 16 in 2018, 2 years ago.
For 5,000 yards, yeah.
Right? He's not doing it this year. He's not playing all 16 games. You know why? Because he's taking him to the playoffs and he's going to sit the last game. Him and that defense are going to the playoffs.
Yeah, so I also say fact to both. You son of a bitch.
No, I said, well, fiction to all 16, but that's because he's sitting the last game.
All right. So we're agreeing on half of it. So let's start with the playing all 16 games. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. Like, I think I make that pretty clear that I do not have a doctor's education. However, just from like a layman's perspective, it's a good thing that he got injured early in the year last year. He had the maximum amount of time to rehab and not have to rush back. And like you said, he did play all 16 games in 2018. And for the most part in recent history, he hasn't had any real serious injury problems.
This is the best O-line he's had in his career.
Exactly. Also got a great O-line, a decent running game going on.
I don't trust Connor.
They've got Connor. They've got Jalen Samuels back there who's decent. But anyway, in terms of them making the playoffs, I think they are going to be a very dangerous team this year.
Agreed.
Because I think their wide receivers do have talent in Juju, James Washington, who was the other guy that kind of emerged at the end of the year, the speedster. It's eluding me. But anyway, they have talent that Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges just were not able to capitalize on. As you mentioned, that defense is legit. You've got
lose anybody either.
T.J. Watt. You've got who's the linebacker that they drafted? Minka, who I thought could have been the defensive player of the year. Devin Bush. They are set at all three levels. They still got Cam Hayward there who can do some damage. I think it's going to be a really tight battle between them.
I think they're franchising Bud Dupree as well. So.
Okay. But I think it's going to be a really tight race between them and Baltimore next year because I don't think Baltimore wins 14 games, but I don't see them dropping below 11.
Right. Yeah, and you got to think, that defense held Baltimore's offense in check for the most part, but you can only do so much when freaking Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph are tossing
And it's not like Baltimore's got some shabby defense either.
Right.
They started playing real well last year, too.
Absolutely.
So these two teams are as good as you get as a 1-2 punch in any of the divisions throughout football. Okay, fact or fiction, Storm. Mitchell Trubisky will start and finish the season as the Bears' starting quarterback.
I'm going with facts. I feel like the Bears are just way too stubborn. They traded up to get this guy. It's only his third year. Yeah, he didn't look good last year, and he really didn't look good, that great, I should say. The year before, he was carried by his defense. I think they go down with the ship. I think this is his final year. I shouldn't say his final year. I should say this is a final year where they give him a full
the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm tired of agreeing with you. It is a fact. And I think they will bring someone in. My thought is a guy like Marcus Mariota who can kind of give the illusion of competition, but he's not clearly better than Trubisky. And Trubisky will get the benefit of the doubt because they drafted him high, because they still see the potential in him. And I do think he will improve a little bit. Do I think he'll show market improvements? No, because I don't think he's got the tools to be an elite quarterback. I could be wrong. I hope he proves me wrong for his sake. I just don't see it watching this guy throw the football. And I think by the end of the year, though, Nagy will have had enough, and that front office will have enough that after Week 17, they will know we got to move off this guy and start thinking about a new plan. I just don't see them thinking that their long-term future is out there in free agency this year. And because of that, I think that they're kind of forced to just giving Trubisky one more year. Because if he does play well, then they're like, hey, look, we were right. And if he doesn't, you really didn't sacrifice that much.
Right.
Okay. Fact or fiction, Storm. Josh Allen will be the best quarterback in the AFC East next season.
Fiction. I don't know why. I just don't think he will be. I think... part of me, just because I still think Brady has like a decent chance of going back to the Pats, and I like Josh Allen's play, don't get me wrong. For some reason, I just feel like he'll be the best running quarterback in the AFC East.
We finally disagree.
I knew you were going fact
there.
there.
The answer is fact whether or not Tom Brady is back in the AFC East. The improvement that Josh Allen was able to make from year 1 to year 2, like everyone talked about Lamar Jackson's improvement as a thrower, which should be noted. But a lot of that, they designed an offense that gave Lamar Jackson some wide open windows that contributed to his 66+% completion percentage. But Josh Allen made some really big improvements too. And if they could get him a big body wide receiver to really utilize, because he isn't the most accurate quarterback.
It's like a bunch of little speed guys. John Brown and Cole
they've got
Beasley.
Cole Beasley. They've got Robert Foster, who's like 6. They don't have.
They don't have a tight end, do they?
Clay.
Clay Hart. Not Clay Hart.
Charles Clay. Isn't that the guy? I don't know. It might be someone else. I can't say I know the Bills tight end off the top of my head. But that combined with his ability to run the football, I do see Josh Allen. Now, granted, Sam Darnold could make a huge jump.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold had a okay.
He's a better pure passer, but I think Josh Allen, with how many ways you can utilize him, I think it's going to be clear the Bills are going to win that division. I think whether or not Tom Brady comes back, and I think Josh Allen will be the best quarterback in the AFC East. All right, fact or fiction, Cam Newton will start for the Carolina Panthers week 1.
I'm going with fact. If you asked me this a couple weeks ago, I'd definitely be saying fiction, but you look at, I'm resorting to Vegas here a little bit. You look at Vegas odds, he's like a heavy favorite to return. It's like minus 500 to go back to Carolina this year. You kind of look at that. You kind of look at, I don't think they were completely sold on Kyle Allen or Will Grier, obviously, because they were teeter-tottering with both of them. And I think I believe that they keep Cam Newton. They draft a guy, maybe Matt Rule gets a guy that he likes, try to develop him a year or two, and then they move on. But, yeah, I think he plays this year.
I'm going with fiction here. I think they're either going to sign and trade him, or just cut him. Now you got a new coach, new owner, a new start, and I just think they want to kind of cut ties from the old regime, start with a couple core pieces, like you lost Kuechly, move on from Cam Newton, start with Christian McCaffrey at your core. And usually the coach would have an issue with that because they're trying to win now, but Matt Rule has enough slack that they can see if they have anything in Kyle Allen after another year to try and develop. And if they don't, they just kind of accept sucking, and then they're in the Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields race for next year. But I think they're just going to cut ties with him and move on. And I still keep saying Cam Newton would be so good in L.A. as a Charger. I think it makes so much sense, but I'm not hearing that anywhere. So maybe I'm missing something.
I haven't seen that anywhere. I haven't seen him really going anywhere lately. I feel like all those rumors just died.
Yeah. And I get the concerns with the recent injuries, but I think he still has a bit to give for a team that's on the precipice and needs a playmaker. All right, last question here, guys. Fact or fiction, Storm? Joe Burrow will outplay Baker Mayfield and lead the Bengals to a better record than the Cleveland Browns.
I have to go with fiction here. And listen, I know Baker played like absolute dog shit last year, but I still think players like Odell and Jarvis are going to be better than a 32-year-old A.J. Green and whoever Joe Burrow is going to be throwing the ball. Cleveland's got a little bit better of an O-line. I just feel like there's a little more talent there to help Baker Mayfield succeed. Yeah, I just don't see it.
Yeah, we're going to end this segment agreeing, unfortunately. And I do actually think the Bengals offense could be surprisingly good as long as they're able to protect Joe Burrow, which is a big if. But they do have a bunch of talented guys. They've got A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd. They've got John Ross. They've got Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard. They've got some talented skill players, but like I said, their O-line is bad, and their defense does them no favors. I do think Baker will bounce back a little bit like this. I think there was a part of him that got humbled a little bit last year, and I think Stefanski's offensive philosophy is going to work better for the talent that Cleveland has on their team. I also do think that they're going to part ways with OBJ, which I think is a good thing for Baker. I feel like he had too many mouths that he wanted to try to feed. He'll be able to focus on Jarvis as the 1, and then they should probably bring in a 1B who is a speedster, but you still know Jarvis is your guy. You get David Njoku more involved if he can stay healthy, and then you run the offense through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I think that will prove conducive to Baker's success, so I'm with you. Fiction there. Fun times.
That was a good one.
Lots of facts, lots of fiction, too much agreeing with you, but that's all right.
That happens.
We must have been trying to connect with each other after being apart for so long. Anyway, guys, we're about to take a break, and I'm about to tell you about the beer that I actually did not take notes on. I was supposed to do that pre-show, but what I can tell you is that it's a new release from Sly Fox Brewing Company, or Sly Fox Brewery, want to get that right. It's Sly Fox. You can check them out, slyfoxbeer.com. And this is their Vulpin IPA. It's a tropical India Pale Ale. Really refreshing for an IPA, in my opinion. Been enjoying this. Had 2 last night, and Storm and I are enjoying them again today. I was telling Storm it's nice not to have to drink alone on the show. He's actually joining me for a brew this week. So
just this week, though.
Just
so
this week.
Then
You're back to the grind with all your money and studying and stuff. Anyway, we're going to take a break, enjoy this beer, but hold tight. We'll be back with you real soon to bring in the second half of the Practice Squad podcast. Sit tight, guys. Two of the Practice Squad podcast. For those of you watching on YouTube, you will see that James, our producer, has joined us at the table. He is seated to my left. Welcome, James.
Hey, how you
It's
doing,
nice
guys?
to see you as well after this hiatus. How'd you enjoy your 3 weeks off?
I was sick for part of it. Not a lot of fun. But
You were sick because you missed us so much that your
sick
stomach...
with a broken heart.
Sick with
Yes.
a broken heart. Obviously, we all felt that. I'm sure all you listeners felt that as well. But fret no more. We are back, and we have a jam-packed second half of the show for you guys. And we're going to start with something. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to talk about the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight before it happened. That's
We were
when we
coming up
did.
close to that,
yeah,
too.
that's when we started our hiatus, and we did decide to start it a week early, so we never quite got around to that conversation. However, now that Deontay Wilder has used his rematch clause in the contract, and it's looking like the fight, as long as all the details get ironed out, will take place on July 18th, it gives us a reason to talk about the third rematch. And what I want to know, James, is after that beatdown that Tyson Fury put on Deontay Wilder a few weeks back, do you think that Wilder has any shot of beating Tyson Fury in a third rematch?
It's gonna be tough to say. We've already seen though. We've seen in Fury's past that when he gets big, he gets the championship, he takes on an opponent that everyone says is gonna beat the piss out of him, like a Vladimir Klitschko. He has trouble with success. Yeah, he pulls a Roberto Duran. He just goes off, has mental breakdown. However, since he's already gone through that, he may be tougher mentally to then go into another fight like this with a guy like Wilder. I mean, I don't see why Fury would have a problem the third time unless he gets in his own way. So that would be Wilder's best chance if Fury gets in his own way again with gets drunk on success, basically. But Fury he said the first fight between him and Wilder, he was basically at 50%, he claimed afterward, and that came out as a draw. This fight, clearly Fury was the better guy in the ring. So I don't see why Fury's confidence would be shook after he's basically took like 5 of Wilder's best right-hand punches, like fight-ending punches that people claimed during the first 3 rounds, and just ate him and kept going forward. He controlled the center of the ring the entire fight, and Wilder looked scared as hell to ever close the distance on him.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. Now, what I will say is with a guy like Wilder, there is always a shot because, as a high school buddy of mine, Corey Butler, said, that dude has the right fist of Judah at his disposal. At any moment, he can knock you the hell out.
Yeah.
Now, we have seen, like you said, Tyson Fury, not just in this last fight, but in the first fight, Wilder got as clean of a shot as he could hope for on Fury, and he rose from the grave on his ass, man. And
Like the Undertaker in WWE.
absolutely. Just rose straight up, eyes behind his head. And I think Fury feels confident that he has Wilder's number now because you saw him come out in this second fight and just attack him. And he exposed that Wilder is not a technically sound boxer. Fury had the better footwork. He had the better head movement. His elusiveness was better, and his ability to get into multiple punch combinations was significantly more efficient than when Deontay Wilder was able to put together. Additionally, you can't ignore the fact that just naturally, Tyson Fury is a bigger human, and we saw how much of an impact that had on him. He was leaning on him all fight long. And I know some people don't love that, but you know what? That's part of heavyweight boxing. That's just how it goes. You use that to your advantage. It's not just about who can punch the hardest. You have to use every legal advantage that you can in a fight to benefit you.
And that was clearly frustrating Wilder the whole fight, too. He got getting tied up in headlocks, and he just didn't know how to answer
but
for
the
it.
reality, we saw it. Fury was just a better boxer than Deontay Wilder.
For sure.
He just was. And we'll talk about the excuse later, but the fact of the matter is Wilder just did not look like himself from round 3 on. Like, he just looked like he was running scared, and Fury owned his ass. Now,
and this humbling may be humbling may be the prudent factor for Wilder to step up in this third fight.
It might be, but for a guy who's got kind of that bully mentality, it's tough to come back. Now, I will give your point a little bit merit about Fury possibly getting a big head, but he's already been at rock bottom in the boxing match of life.
I don't see that happening again,
seriously,
but it could.
Mountains of cocaine could not keep Tyson Fury down. I don't think Deontay Wilder can, and I don't think cockiness or ego can either. I think he's in for a long stretch, win some more belts. Now, the only way he can win belts, though, is if he fights Anthony Joshua. Would you have preferred to see Fury fight Joshua as opposed to a third rematch between Wilder?
It's really tough to want to see that, especially after Joshua's performance against Andy Ortiz recently. Ruiz, that's definitely a match coming up. I think this third fight makes sense. It's obviously the big money, the third fight, the final fight. Everybody wants to see this to finally prove who's top dog, especially after the second fight. I want to see that, but I do want to see what this last for all the this fight is going to be.
I agree, kind of. Like, I do want to see if Wilder has anything else in the tank that he can show us that will change our mind. And I know Floyd Mayweather has come out and said, if I train him, then he's got a shot. And there's actually some merit to that. Floyd Mayweather, in terms of being a defensive fighter and being a technically sound boxer, is about as good as we have ever seen. However, I would have rather seen Fury versus Joshua. Number one, I like new. Barney Stinson rule, number one. New is always better. So I want to see. Thanks for contributing to the conversation, Storm. Storm likes Barney Stinson,
boxing,
guys.
Yes, boxing, fighting.
But no, the reality is Joshua has so many question marks around his game. Yet he has 3 of the 4 heavyweight belts in boxing, and I think Fury deserves the right to go after those.
For sure.
I think Joshua should need to and should want to prove that he is the best, as his multiple belts would suggest. Now, personally, I think Tyson Fury would tear him apart, but nonetheless, it would be a marquee event in London because both of them are from the UK. So I think that would be an international draw.
Yeah.
Exactly. You sell out Wembley. I think Tyson Fury now has gained enough of a name in the United States that people would still want to watch based off of how he dismantled Deontay Wilder. Then I think after that, you could look at Wilder making a comeback and taking on whoever wins that fight. But I think I like to see the best versus the best, champion versus champion. And right now, that would be Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Plus, it's interesting because Joshua is an Olympic fighter. He's a much more technically sound fighter than Wilder, but he doesn't have the knockout power, and he's kind of got a weak jaw. So, like I said...
You saw that against him in Klitschko.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be, like, technically a more interesting fight to watch, but I do think that Tyson Fury would have the big advantage. Real quick, before you leave, I do have to ask you what your opinion was on Deontay Wilder's excuse that the costume he wore before the fight and to walk out played a significant role in his performance.
I mean, come on, dude. You've had 40 fights and you're just now figuring out that wearing a weighted vest makes you tired. Like, you probably train with a weighted vest, dude. And coming out with that clunky costume, like I'm the king and crap. I don't buy it. It's quite simply I don't buy it. And yeah, I mean, I rarely, almost never want to say I agree with Stephen A. Smith. But but yeah, he said the same thing. He's like, that's absolute BS. You're a grown man. Just own up that you got your ass kicked.
Yeah, I think it's a bad excuse. Like, I will say, the legitimacy of wearing a 45-pound suit for 15 minutes before you go out and then taking 10 minutes to walk out to it. has an effect on you, yes, that's legitimate. But you and your corner and your team should have known that. Like, you know this is going to be a drawn-out entrance. You know you're going second, and I get you want to pay tribute to Black History Month and all the people that have paved the way for you, but just wear a special mask. You usually only wear the mask. Be smarter than this. Fury was a genius. He said, I'm not even going to stand up. I'm going to have people carry me out. Preserve all of my energy. So although it makes sense, it's a bullshit excuse because it was something that he had 100% control over. Wasn't an injury, wasn't an illness. Don't come out there and say, oh, I don't want to have any excuses, but then immediately say that you weren't feeling right leading up to the fight, and then a day or two after blame it on the costume. I'm with you. That's kind of amateur, man. Don't do that. Like, just say he was the better fighter, and I will come back better next time.
Yeah, I mean, he did it. Yeah, just leave it at that, and then, okay, rematch. Let's go.
Yeah, just call for the rematch. Prove it in the ring. Anyway, even though I would have preferred to see Joshua versus Fury, I am still stoked to see another rematch between these guys.
Absolutely.
Because Deontay Wilder seems like a guy who's going to come back real pissed off.
Yeah, and those are always the best fights.
They are. They absolutely are. Well, thank you, James, for joining us. If you could go back behind the computer and make sure we're actually still recording, that would be appreciated. Really don't feel like doing this segment again. I feel like I had a lot of good stuff.
James still a little upset after that beating the Flyers put on the Capitals last night. He didn't want to talk hockey.
Quick, James, get out of here.
Excuse me, what? You want to go now?
Save it, guys. Save it. We'll get to it next time.
I don't know
play
if the
another 2
YouTubers
times
can
this
notice,
season,
but
right?
I'm also wearing a 40-pound vest, so I might just might be a little lazy
So
in
when
this
Storm
episode.
inevitably disappoints with this week's performance, it's because of his 40-pound vest.
Exactly. James, are we still recording?
Yeah, okay. It's unplugged.
We got the thumbs up. We are still on the air, so we could move on here. And
Good to go. So,
it's a
Storm,
topic.
you want to get back in the conversation now?
I'll jump in a little bit. I didn't have much to say about boxing. Not really my thing.
That's
but, hey,
all right. We'll teach you
okay.
one day, buddy.
Hey,
Here,
we'll
rule
talk
number one,
NASCAR
try
next
and hit the other guy in the face. Start with that, and we'll go. We'll take baby steps.
Well, as soon as I saw the complaint about the costume, I really start to question the legitimacy of boxing anymore. You know, it's not like it used to be, but
No, definitely
I don't watch
not.
it, so I can't really judge it too much.
Definitely a lot more theatrics than I was comfortable with. I tweeted as soon as Fury came out, because I had picked Fury to win this fight. You don't believe me? Check our social media. I'm at Angelo Cupani. Also tweeted some stuff on at TPS Pod. That's our show podcast. Anyway, picked Fury to win, but I tweeted.
Whoa, you show your handle, but not my handle? I don't even know my handle. I think it's at Eric Storm 82.
Yes, you can't expect me to know your handle if you don't know your handle. Just shout it out anytime at random points of the show.
Yes.
But no, I said I was not a fan of Tyson Fury getting brought out on a throne, and then I see Deontay Wilder looking like Black Panther with light up eyes, about to stroll out, look like he's covered in vibranium. Ridiculous. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about something that you're pretty familiar with, and that's your Philadelphia 76ers. Now, your favorite head coach, Brett Brown, just came out and said that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid will win a championship together. Do you believe him?
I want to hear your thoughts first. I want you to take this first. I want to hear it.
Okay, my answer is no. And it's a shame because these guys are both so physically gifted and talented that you would think there's no way that they don't win a championship together. It's the best 1-2 punch in terms of guard forward since Shaq Kobe. Or I guess you could argue D-Wade, Kobe, but these two guys are elite in terms of physical talents. The downside is their playing styles just don't fit with Simmons not showing the ability or even the willingness to shoot the ball. Now, Embiid is above average in terms of a guy his size as a shooter, but we know at the end of the day, he's clearly the most effective with his big ass down in the paint. Whereas Simmons needs to be a guy that you open up the lane for and he penetrates and he's getting shooters involved, dishing it, making a play that way. So that's number one. Number two is for both of them. Health and commitment to winning is very, very much in question. We see both are having health issues right now. Both of them have a history of injury in their short careers. And then you look at their commitment to the game of basketball. Simmons has not shown really any improvements as a player since he came in the league. He's almost the exact same player. You look at strides that Giannis made from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, etc. Simmons just has not shown that he's going to do that. And Embiid has been said by many to lack maturity and discipline that's required to be the best player on a championship-winning team. Number 3, this Al Horford contract is going to kill them unless they're able to get super creative and find a diamond in the rough. And I know you're probably going to talk about coaches, and maybe a great coach would be able to coach them up and get them there and change their mindset. But I don't even feel confident that that would do the trick. So they're talented enough to win a lot of regular season games and a playoff series or two, but they are not the makings of a championship team, in my opinion.
So last year, this team was literally 4 bounces away from an Eastern Conference Finals team. Now,
We'll say with Jimmy Butler.
I was just going to say that. Jimmy Butler didn't want to be here, so I don't think there was anything they could do. But
No,
that has killed them. I think not giving Jimmy that max and Tobias getting a max and Al Horford getting the contract that he got has really, screwed this team. You found a good player later in the draft this past year with Matisse Thybulle. He's a defensive stud. Really doesn't show him too much on the offense. Looks like he could pop the 3 every now and again. Not much there. But this team, Ben and Joe have a very small window to win a title, and I do think they could still do it. And like you said, Brett Brown's got to go. It's got to start with Brett Brown.
I agree there.
I just think
This isn't the job he signed up for.
no,
They hired him for.
I think his mentality is just too much of a player's coach, and that leads to Ben Simmons never shooting because Brett Brown and Ben Simmons have known each other for 20-some years, as long as Ben's been born, blah, 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 this and that. And I just think there's too much friendly relationship there and not a coach that will get in Ben's face. And, Ben probably will never shoot the way people want him to shoot. It's just not going to happen. But people like me, if he could just develop a 10 to 15-foot shot, that opens it up for him.
Or
It
at
opens
least
up
show
for
a
Joel.
willingness to try and take it, make
Right.
the defense come out a little
Respect
bit.
you a little
Magic
bit.
Johnson was never
Yeah.
a great shooter, but he would shoot the ball if you
Right.
left him open.
Right. And I'm going to disagree with your point on Ben growing a little bit because he's a defensive player of the year candidate this year. He's been quite a
He
stud.
came into the league with the physical tools to
doubt.
do that. And that's,
Right, but he's gotten better and better at it every year. He still leads the league in steals, and he's missed, the last 3 weeks or whatever it is, or since the All-Star break is when he got hurt. And, Joe...
But you'll agree, he's still, even though he's improved, he's still the same player that he was. He's a little bit better.
Same type, yeah.
But he's still the
But
same
he's
player with the same
improving his
holes.
craft.
He has not
Yeah.
shown a willingness to fill the gaps in his
He's
game.
improving what he was already good at.
Yeah, I will concede to that.
Okay. Now, and then you look at Giannis. Yes, Giannis has gotten better year over year, but I'm pretty sure it was that year 4 to 5 jump, or 3 to 4, 3 to 4 jump, which is kind of where Ben's at. What's this, his 3rd year now?
Yeah.
think- so-
Because you take away the rookie. year he didn't play.
whatever it is.
But,
So it would be his
But also,
fourth,
you got to.
technically.
Giannis started much lower than where Ben Simmons started. So Giannis didn't hit MVP level till his 4th year. Mm-hmm.
And Giannis has developed a shot. He was never able to shoot like that.
And,
so
and
he's,
he could
he's
still
willing-
improve there, but he
yeah.
just didn't even. He was where Ben Simmons is right now, and he came
Right.
in unwilling to shoot.
But I do think that Al Horford contract is just going to screw this team. I do think I wouldn't consider blowing up the Ben Joel combo until you get another coach in there and take a run at it.
I agree with that.
And Joel, and you're right. Joel has shown, if I'm going to move a player, it's probably going to be Joe. I feel like his shelf.
agree.
I feel like his shelf span's a little bit less. Ben at least goes out and competes every night. I don't see that in Joe. I see Joe put up 40 points one night and 10 the
part
next.
of me thinks that because the coaches won't do it, he's just doing in-game load management.
Right.
He's just like, I'm not going to sit games,
Right.
but I can't go 100% in every single game.
Yeah, and he even come out and said, I'm not going to sit in the post every time. Dude, that's where you're dominant. And I get it.
Yeah.
Let the man take a 3 here and there. He does make them when every now and again. But to be honest, he's made to be down on the post. And
Because every time he gets the ball down there, you can't stop him with anyone. No one in
Right.
the league can stop him
Right.
unless you double team him.
Right.
It doesn't. And if you double team, then you get Ben slashing. You get your shooters. Things happen
Right.
when he's down there, man.
And I think they just the idea of Ben, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid on the court together just has looked poor. And
No spacing
they threw
whatsoever.
Al Horford on the bench, and things kind of looked somewhat better. They beat the Clippers right before the All-Star break, this and that. But you can't now. You don't know because they're both hurt. So I have no idea where the rest of this year is going to go. Tobias, that's another contract
never
that's a
loved
head
that
scratcher.
signing.
Like, I knew they were going to keep him. I like him as a player. I don't know if I like him to the max that he's got, but he was going to get the max.
Get it somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's just like we talked about with the quarterbacks. You can't pay a guy that max contract when he's not a max player, man. He wasn't even an all-star this year. He wasn't.
Tobias, no, I
Yeah.
don't think so. I think it was just Ben and Joe. And then, like, you don't really have – there's, like – we were so hyped. We thought there was depth at point guard with Raul Nato and Trey Burke, and they both
there's no
suck.
depth, yeah.
And then, like, it all points back to, I think, this Al Horford deal. I think this has screwed the team royally. I still think Brett Brown's not the coach for this team. Brett Brown was a coach that was made to lose. Now, I get it. Like you said, they're built to win regular season games. It's going to happen. That's not coaching. That's just talent.
Exactly. That's because there's clear talent discrepancies between teams. It's trying to figure out the differences at the top. And in terms of teams at the top, they're at the bottom.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to.
The fact they're only sixth in the East right now.
Yeah, and they can't win. And it's crazy because if you look and you saw just their home record, they're 26-2 or whatever it is on home. You're like, there's no way this team's sixth in the East, and there it goes. And that's another thing. That's coaching. That's just bad substitutions. That's letting teams go bad runs.
And it's also lack of maturity. You go on the road, you go out, you don't focus on the game. And that has a lot to do with coaching, getting your team ready.
Right, exactly. The Lakers, they go on a 44-7 run or whatever it was 2 nights ago. The Clippers did the same thing a couple nights before that. They went on like a 60-20 run or something like that. And I get it. They're not, the two big guys aren't playing right now. But you can't let that happen no matter what. There's something that has to happen. And, I start with the coach, and then I move on from there. And if you had to make me pick a player between the two, I'm rolling with Ben.
I do agree with that. One quick question before we move on. In your estimation, would you say the process has worked?
It has. It just got screwed up. Because the reason of the process was to draft talent, which they did with Ben and Joe, and then
forgetting a lot of the other people who got discarded during the process as well.
Oh, right, and that was to get you other assets such as Saric and or Robert Covington, who got you Jimmy Butler last year. That was the idea of the process. The idea of the process was to get you money to sign a veteran contract, and they just did it with the wrong players, with a Tobias Harris, with an Al Horford. Like Hinkie gave them mass assets, and they dropped the ball. Yeah. That's really what happened. So
I agree.
The idea of the process worked. The execution of the process didn't work because now they have to find those
they spent their money on the wrong players.
Yeah. And listen, the trade for Jimmy worked. They were 4 bounces away, and I do think they would have beat the Bucks last year.
I agree.
But to that point, like, it just sucks letting him
I get it. It's a bummer seeing how much talent there. But we got to move on. Another basketball topic, and this actually had me rolling a little bit. So during All-Star Weekend, Giannis came at James Harden with the comment when they said, why aren't you picking James Harden for your team? And Giannis gives you the cheeky side eye and says, I want somebody who can pass or who's going to pass the ball. Well, James Harden, after being approached about that after a game, or I forget exactly, in some article, he responded to a lot of this, and I will quote him. James Harden said, I wish I could be 7 feet, run, and just dunk. That takes no skill at all. I got to actually learn to play basketball and have skill. I'll take that any day.
Is that how James Harden sounded, too?
That's exactly how he said it. Actually sat there as he sipped an espresso, all cheeky and whatnot, trying to not let any get in his beard. Anyway, fair or foul by James Harden?
A little bit foul. I mean, I think Giannis was just going to have a little fun, joke about it. All-Star break. Everyone's supposed to, kick back and relax a little bit. But I think it stems back from last year. Do you remember when Giannis just whipped that ball? It looked like it was going to be a pass, and he just whipped it right in Harden's face.
I had totally forgotten about that.
And I think that's where it stems from. I think Harden's still a little butthurt about getting that basketball just whipped in his face. And what he said about Giannis is wrong. Yeah, Giannis is 7 foot and all, could, if he wanted to, could just dunk. We see it with Ben Simmons, right? But Giannis has developed a shot. He has to be taken seriously around the perimeter in that 10 to 15 foot range. He's not just a dribble and dunk player. He's really good. And I don't know what Harden was thinking when he was saying this.
See, I actually think it's a bit more fair than you here. Now, I had forgotten the ball to the dome, so maybe it is just a little bit of PTSD when he hears the name Giannis. But let's look at this. Like, I can't really knock him. Like, he wouldn't have said anything in the first place if Giannis didn't want to call him out for not passing.
True.
Which, by the way, James Harden is actually a very good passer, has pretty good assist numbers this year. Now, you can argue it's because he takes one extra dribble.
Ball dominant, yeah.
Yeah, ball dominant, whatever. But he is a fairly skilled passer, can make some creative dimes. And it's not like he's totally wrong about Giannis. Like, I get what you're saying. He does other things other than just drive the basket. But Giannis does have a very big physical advantage. And James is, without a doubt, the much more skilled basketball player. So if someone had the skill that James Harden had developed, and even close to the frame of Giannis, that's the greatest player of all time, without a doubt. So I do kind of get what he's saying as a whole. But on Giannis's behalf, like, I do, like, he has worked hard. It's not like he's just stayed comfortable with being a big 7-footer.
He
worked hard to get himself to have the physical stature of a person with his game. If he doesn't put on that weight, he can't play this style, and he's not that good. So you got to give him credit for that. Like, KD's tall, but KD cannot drive the lane like Giannis can.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If Giannis
like
didn't put on the weight, Giannis would have been more like a KD.
But without, KD's just got one of the most natural, beautiful jumpers I've ever seen.
For sure.
And then additionally, you got to give Giannis his dues on the defensive end as well. Like, he is an excellent defender, has great vision in terms of anticipation, getting blocks, providing help defense, etc. But additionally, Giannis also can't be that salty about this, and I don't think he is. But Giannis is always the one talking about the killer instinct, not wanting any friends, not wanting to associate and be all buddy-buddy with anyone. And that's exactly what James Harden was doing here, identifying a rival and calling him out. So I don't see any issue with it.
It's just such a weird rival because it's not even like they go off against each other, like defensively, if they ever play each other. And they're in two completely different conferences.
Yeah.
So what do they play each other? Twice a year? It's just very strange how this is developing.
Because they're both kind of like these two periphery stars because they
sure.
aren't like the faces of the NBA, but they're really close to it. And there's some things that just aren't quite right, like Giannis being international, James Harden with his postseason struggles. They aren't quite in that inner circle of LeBron, KD, Steph Curry. Anyway, we're going to stick with the Bucks for a second because even though Giannis has no skills and is only 7 foot and can just run and jump and dunk and whatever, he does have his Bucks sitting comfortably in first place in the East, on pace for, I think, 69 wins.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous.
Really, really great. They did just lose to the Heat, I believe it was. But I want to know what team you feel has the best shot at taking down the Bucks in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think any team has a legitimate chance. I would probably look at Toronto just because Darnell Nurse just has that team.
Who
Not
Nurse?
Darnell. What the hell's
Nick
the first
Nurse.
name? Nick Nurse. Why am I thinking Darnell? No. Why am I thinking Darnell?
Danielle Marshall or something?
I don't know. But
He's actually from my home area, hometown, Reading. Yeah.
Nice.
Fun fact.
Oh, interesting. Well,
The more you know.
But
Nick Nurse, yes.
I feel like they treat, and I was talking to Jason about this, so kudos to him for putting this thought in my head. He's coaching every game like a playoff game, and that's why they're the number 2 seed. Like, when we talked about them at the beginning of the year, who had Toronto at the number 2 seed?
Nobody.
And, like, Pascal Siakam is coming into that star. You kind of thought maybe he would have, but I just feel like he had that defensive philosophy. Obviously, there's no Kawhi, so that's a big hole in that defense. But I really don't know. I really don't think there's a team that could go head-to-head with Milwaukee in 7 games. Sure, would I love to say the Sixers? Absolutely, because they have the ability defensively to do it.
Yeah.
But they got to be healthy. They have to be clicking. And Brett Brown has to pull the right strings, which we really haven't seen. So,
yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from with Toronto, but I think you're totally wrong there.
Well, you're going to go say Boston because that's who you picked to win the Eastern Conference.
Well, I will, and I have reasons for it, but let me tell you why you're wrong about Toronto first. This is who Toronto is. It's who they've been for the past 6 or 7 years. They are regular season warriors, and without a genuine superstar, they get knocked in 5 or 6 in the second round. That's just how it goes because playoff basketball is different. It's about getting a stop and having a guy who can make a bucket when it counts. And I know Pascal Siakam has been better. He's an all-star. But let's not act like we have any confidence that he can be that guy in a 7-game series against elite talent.
Yeah.
He cannot. So you're
we
right.
haven't
though.
seen it yet.
I don't believe he can, and I don't believe they're like number 2, and when you're number 2 and 3 are Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet as well. That doesn't excite you. They work hard and they're coached well, and that's why they can win a lot of regular season games. But when they are consistently playing the same very good playoff team for 5, 6, 7 games in a row, they get exposed, and that'll happen again this year. Now you're right with assuming who I was going to guess. It is Boston, and like you said, I predicted them to win the East in the preseason, and I can't say right now that I would take them over Milwaukee because I don't think I would. Milwaukee's too long. They're really good three-point shooters, and Giannis is nearly unstoppable unless you double or triple team him. Additionally, they're an historically great defensive team.
Yeah.
So let's not forget about that. But Boston is the team that has the most firepower, that would have the best shot at putting up points against this Milwaukee team on a consistent basis. So other than Giannis, the Boston team has significantly better top-of-the-roster talent from a skills perspective than the Milwaukee Bucks. So with the Bucks, you've got Giannis and you've got Middleton, who's good, but let's not act like he's some life-changing number 2. He's no Scottie Pippen or anything like that. And you've got some good guys in Bledsoe, who I think is very underrated, but he hasn't shown that he shows up in the playoffs. And you've got the Lopez brothers who can stretch the floor, but they're not anybody who's going to really scare you. Then you look over at this Boston team. You've got Jason Tatum, who's showing that dude can ball. He's embodying the spirit of Kobe Bryant. You've got Jaylen Brown, who showed that he can be a lead offensively. Kemba Walker, who can go off at any time and is showing that he is a much better distributor and point guard in Brad Stevens' system than Kyrie was. And then you've got Gordon Hayward. Yes, that's right. Gordon Hayward, former All-Star, former max contract player, is your 4th option on the team, 4th scoring option. They just have enough that if everyone is clicking, even if Giannis has a good game, they have a chance to win. And if Giannis is off for 1 or 2 games and 2 of those guys are on, you're telling me that you're going to take, let's say Giannis and Tatum are off. Are you taking Middleton and Bledsoe to have big games, or Kemba and Jaylen Brown to have a big game? You also got Enes Kanter down low that kind of counters the Lopez's style, kind of that European outside, not really a rough and tough body down low, but more of a finesse big guy. Like I said, I'm not saying I would take the Celtics, but I think they're the only team that's got a legitimate shot, given the talent that they have in that starting lineup.
There's a good chance the Sixers and Celtics played first round.
Yeah, and I think the Celtics will run them, honestly. I do.
Like I said,
I don't think the Sixers are a good matchup for the Celtics. I do think the Sixers.
They took them 3-1 in the regular season.
I'm telling you, man, when they're not a good matchup.
3-1 in the regular season, but it's not a good matchup.
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
Now, this next subject, this is what we really should think about doing instead of podcasting.
I think that's what we're trying to get to by doing this. I want someone
Can we skip a few steps like Peyton Manning?
I want to get paid $17 to talk about sports. Tony Romo just got paid $17 million a year, or that's what his contract is, to re-up with CBS. Is he really worth that?
Good for him, man. I don't care if you're worth it or not. If a company's willing to pay you that, you're going to take the cash. You're going to grab the bag. Listen, when you watch a game, when you watch a game and you hear Tony Romo's on, do you perk up a little bit? Like, oh, it's Tony Romo. Oh, it's thank God it's not Kenny Albert. It's Tony Romo. You know what I mean? Like, and listen, I do think there's more involved than just NFL. I said this earlier when we first talked about this. I do think he's going to fill into a role with the Masters, with more golf stuff. I do think
he's going to eventually become Jim Nantz.
Exactly.
He's going to take over for him.
Exactly. And
I get it.
So there's more to it than just a football. And listen, I don't want to hear people compare, oh, he's making more than NFL players. It's too, like, the NFL isn't paying Tony Romo.
That's
CBS
is paying. A dumb argument.
CBS is paying, and I see these players getting upset about it. And this is digressing, I'm sorry. But seeing players talk about it pisses me off a little bit.
Yeah, it's all about the money that your particular employer or industry is raking in and what you're worth in terms of how much money they're going to bring in.
And CBS is paying the NFL over $1 billion a season to go, and that's paying those guys. So.
Now, what I will say is I think Tony Romo's good. I don't listen to him go, oh my gosh, he's so much better than anyone. But CBS had to pay him, otherwise ESPN was going
Right.
to take him.
And they just
want to
offer-
make sure that they stay, because ESPN obviously has a history of being the worldwide leader in sports. That's the one company that they don't want snagging Tony Romo from them.
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they know, everyone knows that Monday Night Football is down, and they're hoping
They're
that in a couple of
desperate.
years, maybe ESPN doesn't have Monday Night Football anymore. So I get why they pay him. I honestly prefer the guy that sits next to him. I prefer listening to Jim Nance.
I love Jim Nance.
But no, I'll give it to. There are very few people that I think are better at that job.
I mean,
so I can't.
when
be too
he
mad.
for everyone, when he first stepped into the broadcast booth, everyone's a little weird, and then you hear him talking, you're like, all right, he's pretty good. I mean,
And that's the other thing. He was so good at it so quickly.
Yeah.
CBS thing, if we keep this guy on for 30 years, like he could be like one of the most iconic figures in sports, because you go from being a player to one of the greatest broadcasters type thing. There's that potential. So because he's so young and already has the fan base, the name, recognition.
and he's done games. He's went out and earned it. Now with him signing there, ESPN's getting so trigger happy. They're ready to throw Peyton Manning $18 to $20 million.
I was saying, I know
Peyton Manning, who never did a full game. I don't think.
And I know Peyton Manning is super conversational. It's fun to listen to. But there's part of me that hopes that ESPN hires him and he's just terrible at it. Like he just gets up there and freezes and does not know what to say.
They need Pat McAfee in there, man. That's
It's
so
better
funny.
than
Makes it
Booger and
interesting.
Joe. And Tessitore, you can keep him on, I guess. It's just Booger makes everyone else worse, man. They had to move him to the cart to get him out of the booth.
Terrible.
I wish I could make $17 million talking about football. Would probably help if I played football before and was better at talking about football. Tony Romo is a freaking psychic. He knows what the hell is going to happen 3 plays into the third quarter at the coin toss. Anyway, guys, that's our show. We hope you enjoyed us back for our first time in a month. I know it felt good to get back here, drink some beer, talk some sports. Make sure that if you don't already, to find us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for any videos, audio clips, links, etc. that we put out there. Also follow us on Twitter at TPSPod. And subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Just search the Practice Squad Podcast. We're the guys with the dope-ass logo. And then, obviously, if you're just looking to listen, that's fine. Find us on any podcast provider. Tell your friends about us. It makes a world of a difference. We appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. So hope you guys all enjoy your weekend or your week or whenever you're listening to this. Hope you're enjoying that time. And we will be back with you